Hello guys, welcome back to another video. The topic of this video is going to be how to heal your inner child. So as usual, I picked a Bible verse for the topic, which is going to be Isaiah chapter 40 verse 31 for the video. And it says, "But those who hope in the Lord will renew their strength. They will soar on wings like eagles. They will run and not grow weary. They will walk and not be faint." So I chose this one because I think it's perfect for the topic in a way that it helps us understand that we're not going to be alone throughout this process, because healing your inner child can be triggering. It can be re-traumatizing to us, and it can be very annoying, frustrating, and it can cause us to feel lost and confused, and we don't know where to go next. So as long as we lean on the Lord and trust in Him and what He has in store for us during these hard times, He will definitely reward us in the end. So we have to go through the storm of healing ourselves and all the frustrations and the anxiety and the stress that comes with that. But in the end, we will soar on wings like eagles. We won't grow weary. We will be strong and more connected with ourselves. And as we grow more connected with ourselves and begin healing ourselves and understanding ourselves better, we become the best versions of ourselves so we can serve God. And not only that, but just overall become more at peace with ourselves and happier in our lives as we move forward into adulthood and have jobs and relationships and grief from losing people or losing friends and stuff like that. So yeah, it just helps us better understand how to move forward into our adult lives from that. So keep that in mind, guys, for that one. And I also do want to address the traumas that some people have faced recently, like in the new year already. I know we're only a couple weeks in, but I just want to say I pray for those who were victims of the Bourbon Street attack in New Orleans, as well as the ongoing fires in California right now that are rapidly growing and taking people's homes and their belongings and their lives and their pets and everything like that. It's really sad. So I just want to say I send my prayers out to those people who are affected by those things, and I also encourage you guys to do the same. I know it's a hard time right now for them, and I just want us all to be more united right now and just help each other out when it's necessary. So keep that in mind as well. Okay, and for those of you who don't know what inner child work is or not really too familiar with it, it's basically just going back into your childhood memories and going to see like which traumas have wounded you in certain ways, how they have wounded you, and how that could actually have an effect on our mental and emotional well-being now as adults. So for example, I think like if you were growing up and you would try to bring up ideas or certain ways of thinking or just your emotions to your family or to your caregivers or your peers, your siblings, like whoever it is, and they tended to just brush you under the rug or ignore you or treat you in a way that made you feel like what you had to say wasn't important, that could also stem into your adulthood, obviously, in a very dramatic way. So if you're one of those people like me, I will say that is like in general a people pleaser, and you just put everybody else's needs above your own, and you kind of put your own emotions like in a closet somewhere, and you don't really want to address those, then that's probably because of something from your childhood or somebody from your childhood treating you that same way. But it is fixable. There is a way around that. There is a way to understand that, navigate through that, and come out the other side from that. So yeah, don't feel hopeless. Don't feel like you're alone, because you're definitely not. I know a lot of us have this tendency and have been through that, so don't feel like you're alone in that at all. And to actually do inner child work, you do need to reconnect with the old parts of you with the parts of you that didn't get the attention you needed as your younger self. And when we do that, it actually fills in the gaps of what was missing in our childhood, and it makes us more inclined to bounce back faster from emotional stresses, like for example like breakups or the stresses you get from your jobs, or grief, like I mentioned, like from losing a loved one or just losing people in your life, like whether it be friends who you don't talk to anymore, or whether it be like deaths that you have to deal with from your loved ones and stuff like that. It just helps us kind of heal from that and go from there. One thing I do also want to mention is that I'm not a licensed therapist or psychologist. I simply do the research for you guys so that I can put it in a video and make it easier for you guys to digest instead of having to go through the trouble of doing it yourselves. So keep that in mind. If you're really struggling and you feel like my videos aren't helping, other people's videos aren't helping, nothing seems to be helping, I would definitely, of course, encourage you to go seek professional therapy or go to an actual licensed psychiatrist or psychologist. But yeah, I'm just trying to help you guys in any way that I can, but please just keep that in mind. Okay, so one major way I think you can start the healing process for your inner child is to do this activity where you visualize yourself as a kid. Like, if you need to look back at old pictures, old videos of yourself as a kid, I think that'll be even better. But go ahead and do that and keep that in your mind. Whatever you look like as a kid, however you acted as a kid, whatever your personality was like as a kid, put that all in your mind and create like a little movie in your head of those memories of yourself, and then start writing a letter to yourself. And in that letter, I want you guys to write everything that you wish you would have heard from your parents, everything you wish you would have heard from your siblings, your friends, anything like that, anything you can think of, put it in that letter and just give it to yourself. Like, reread it over and over again if you need to affirm your belief that you're good enough, that you are valid, your feelings are valid, your ideas are valid, you are important as a person, you're important as a kid, you are loved, like everything like that. You need to remember that, because as a kid, a lot of us didn't get that. I think as a kid, a lot of our parents either, no shade, like no offense, but a lot of our parents maybe didn't know how to be parents at the time. They didn't know how to put more emotional effort into their kids because their emotional effort was elsewhere, wherever that may have been. Like, obviously they were probably traumatized in certain ways as well, so it made it hard for them to know how to parent properly and stuff like that. I'm just saying, that's probably the case for a lot of people. So just keep that in mind. Like, if you have to go back and tell yourself those things that your parents either chose not to tell you, forgot to tell you, didn't care enough to tell you, whatever the case may be, definitely try that. And I guarantee you guys will probably be feeling a lot more understood. You guys will feel a lot more understood, a lot more loved, a lot more validated, and everything like that. So all around, there's no downside to that, except for you probably getting emotional, which is fine. Like, you need to get that out. But I think you'll come out better on the other side from this activity. So definitely try this one first, I would say. And just give yourself the privacy to do it. If you don't want to do it in front of anybody else, obviously that's very understandable. But definitely try that whenever you can. And another thing too is whenever you're going through a triggering moment, like let's say whenever somebody takes too long to do something, it really like pisses you off, like it gets you so upset and you get so impatient and you have like an outburst where you scream at them or just get like super testy with them and get rude or whatever it is. Like, think back, why do I act like that? Like, was there something in my childhood that caused me to be this impatient? Like, was somebody impatient with me over the course of my childhood too much to where now I'm impatient with everybody else? Like, what is it? Does it bother me when people take too long because I'm afraid that I'm losing control over my situation and I won't get my chance to do what I'm supposed to do because this person is taking so long, or something like that, for example, that could come up as a trigger. Basically take that and anchor that thought and then backtrack slowly and try to put the pieces together as part of a puzzle and be like, okay, why do I get triggered like that? Like, I'll give you a personal example. Like, whenever my daughter takes too long to do something, she's 5, so sometimes she just takes her sweet time doing stuff. Sometimes I get really aggravated, and I think it's because when I was younger, like, people were rushing me, or like my time wasn't seen as important as other people's time, so I would get rushed a lot in certain scenarios and things like that. So I think that kind of stemmed into my adulthood when it comes to me treating my daughter like that. So I really try to check myself with that, and I try not to rush her too much or not try to rush myself too much also, because I feel like I'm always like scrambling and I'm always late to stuff, because of that potentially. So just keep that in mind, like link that trigger to your childhood and then fill in the gap, if that makes sense, to figure that part out. Another way too to kind of backtrack and put the puzzle pieces together of where your emotional triggers come from, just ask yourself certain questions. Like when you're in a scenario where you get triggered, like let's say you're getting embarrassed or you're getting rejected or something like that, pretty much ask yourself the questions like what is making me feel uncomfortable right now? Like what specifically did this person say or do that made me uncomfortable? What did this person say or do that made me feel anxious, helpless, lack of control? What was it specifically that made me feel these things? And then, like I said, like basically anchor that thought so you can track it back to the source and better understand that trigger. And I know this might be easier said than done because we could get triggered so many times throughout the day and we just kind of brush over it because we got stuff to do or whatever it is. So basically what I would do is utilize the stuff you can use on your phone. Like go on your notes app and write that down for later. Like, oh, my manager said this and it made me feel like this. And then whenever you get home at night, like look back at your notes and be like, okay, why did that trigger me? Because if you don't start doing that, I feel like you're just going to constantly get triggered by people and situations. And it's always going to feel like it just pisses you off. You don't know why. And you don't know what to do about it. So just take that time. Like it takes like a few seconds. Like pull out your phone, put it in your notes, or keep it in mind until you can pull out your phone, or write it down, something like that. Like whenever you have a chance, do that. And then reassess it at the end of the day, or like right before you go into bed, or like when you get off work, or whenever you can, pretty much, because it's our responsibility to do stuff like that so we can understand ourselves and how to fix certain habits that we have. Going into the next method, it is going to be called reparenting. So basically, whenever we think back to the stuff that we didn't hear as a kid or the things we weren't taught as a kid, we have to go back into it like we're reparenting ourselves and we're becoming our own parents, and just taking care of ourselves in a more productive and effective, more loving way than what we had as kids. So with that, remember that you're not alone. You're not going through this by yourself. It's not a unique experience. It's actually pretty common, which is good in a sense because it's so heavily researched. But of course, it's bad because we all had to go through it in a way. But we still are learning from it and able to go back and recorrect those things. So yeah, just learn to be your own parent in a way, as frustrating as it might seem. Just start doing that. And one way to do this, I would say, is, for example, stepping out of adult mode for a minute and away from your usual responsibilities. Even if it's only for a few minutes, that's fine. But just to simplify it, try to think about what you would do to cheer up a sad little kid. Like maybe you would make them laugh, you would try to distract them with fun things to do like arts and crafts, going to the park, jumping on a trampoline, anything like that. Anything you think you would do in that instance, just do that for yourself, because you are basically trying to heal a sad little kid that's within you. So I think that's the best way to put it. And once you do this, I guarantee you'll be happier as well. Like if you pair this with the writing a letter to your inner child activity, I think you're going to be so happy. Like it'll be the building blocks to get you to be so happy and be like, oh, that's why I do that. Like, oh, that's not as big of a problem as I thought it was. Or, oh, that's a fixable problem that I don't really have to stress about anymore because other people are going through it. And we can understand how to get past it since it's so heavily researched and stuff like that. And as a personal example, I'll use something like making yourself laugh, like I just mentioned. So for me, I love to laugh. Like I am so goofy for no reason. Like I will laugh until I'm crying on the floor. Like I'll be in public laughing so hard. So whenever I really need to get out of my depression, I'll just go look at funny videos. Like I'll go talk to my friends who are so funny, or like my one friend who be cracking me up. Like whatever you have to do to make yourself laugh. For other people, it could be like mine is laughter. So for other people, it could be like artistic things. Like if you need to go draw something, if you need to go paint something to get that out, or if you're somebody who needs to listen to music to get that out, like whatever it is that you feel like would also cheer up your inner child, go ahead and do that. Because even as a kid, for me, like I used to love to laugh. Like I would laugh too much and it would get me into trouble sometimes. So just look into that and see what it is specifically that you need to cheer yourself up, or to cheer your inner child up in this case. A side note I also want to include in here is something I just now thought about. So don't end up overthinking during this process, so much so that you're kind of spiraling or thinking yourself into a black hole, whether it be from guilt, from your past behaviors, from your triggers, like if you've ever yelled at people, if you just had terrible habits and you've taken stuff out on those who loved you and those people that you love. Don't overthink it so much so to where you're punishing yourself from that guilt along this process. So this process is just for healing. This isn't to belittle or bash yourself. So keep that in mind. You can be real with yourself and call yourself out when necessary, but don't start punishing yourself and bashing yourself and doing that to yourself, because it's just going to make it worse and kind of make the healing prolonged. So just don't do that. I just thought about that and I wanted to include this as well. So keep that in mind, please. Going on to this next parenting or reparenting method, it's going to be kind of tied into the other one I mentioned about writing a letter to your inner child. But this one is going to be something I want you guys to do more casually and more often. And it's going to be visualizing yourself whenever you're doing your self-talk. So just casually visualizing yourself and how you used to act as a kid, how you used to look as a kid. And instead of chastising ourselves, or instead of belittling ourselves or degrading or being condescending to ourselves, just treat it like we're looking at a little kid in front of us, like an innocent little kid who doesn't know any better with certain things, and we have to re-explain or reteach certain things to our inner child. So keep that in mind. Like always have that visualization. Have that visualization handy in your mind, and continue doing that as you're talking to yourself. Like whenever you make a mistake, like let's say you're working and you do something stupid, like you're just thinking about something else and then you make a mistake typing up an email or something, and you make yourself sound like kind of funny, or like you don't know something when you really do, or something like that. And you end up saying like, dang it, like why did I do that? Now I look stupid in front of my coworkers, or whatever the case may be. Instead of doing that, remember, you're a little kid in your mind. There's a little kid inside of you kind of thing. So instead of doing it like that, just talk to yourself like, oh dang, I didn't notice I wrote that in the email. I didn't notice I sounded like that. Oh well, it's all good. I can correct it if anybody has any issues, or if anybody's confused about what I said. Or I could just write a follow-up email right now and do the correction myself to get ahead of it and be proactive. Like don't treat it as such a big thing. Like just talk yourself through it, and don't think that just makes you as a stupid person. Like just be logical about it. One little mistake is not gonna make you a dumbass. Like, you know what I'm saying? If y'all get what I'm saying, then yeah. But just keep that in mind and recognize and highlight your strengths as well. So whenever you have an accomplishment, or let's say somebody just compliments your looks or the way you think or something you've achieved or something like that, don't just go straight to being like, oh no, like, oh, you don't have to say that. Oh, don't say that. Like, oh, stop. We need to cut that out. It's annoying. Like, I think we do that too much to try to be so humble, but it's actually kind of backfiring on us, because we're affirming the idea that we're not worthy of those compliments. We don't want to feel natural to accept those compliments, and so on and so forth. So just keep that in mind for real. Like, I want you guys, next time you get a compliment, I want you guys to practice this. Just be nice, of course, and be like, thank you. Like, I appreciate you saying that. And just leave it there. Like, be genuine about it. Don't think that you have to push away the compliment in order to be considered as a nice person. Like, that's ridiculous. And give yourself those compliments as well. Like, look back at your accomplishments as a child and give praise to those all the way through your childhood, all the way into adolescence, all the way into your adulthood. Like, find a way to compliment an achievement, something you've overcame, some ways you've learned more about yourself or about a certain topic, about life itself, like anything like that. At each stage in your life, I just made this up right now. Like, I'm actually thinking this should actually work as well. It's kind of like the letter thing, but with this, pinpoint at least 1 to 3 achievements from your childhood, 1 to 3 achievements from adolescence, and then adulthood, like I said. And then I would actually put this somewhere you could see it pretty often. Like, if you want to put this on your mirror, if you want to have this on your phone, like as your background on your phone or something like that, I think that would be a good idea too. So definitely try those things out. And we're gonna go into the last reparenting method that I have for you guys. And this all seems to be like all tied together, honestly, now that I'm looking back at it. So it's all pretty much talking about journaling and just reaffirming our emotions and things like that. So going into the last one, it says to journal or document your day-to-day or week-to-week thoughts, feelings, habits, triggers, accomplishments, whatever it may be, because this will help us to affirm our ways of thinking, that we are important, that we're worth paying attention to. And this is specific to the ones who didn't feel properly heard or validated as a kid. And this actually can become a self-nurturing thing as you build a deeper understanding of yourself and how you think in general. And when you do that, it just helps you realize what you need in order to be happy. Like, simple as that. I think the more you study a topic, of course, the more you become an expert on it. So become an expert on yourself. Like how I mentioned an autobiography earlier, how you should write an autobiography on yourself kind of thing. I think that would be good with that, because you'll become more of an expert on yourself. You'll learn more about like your tics, your habits, how to get around them, how to get through them, how to navigate through them in certain instances when you're in public and you can't really get triggered the same way that you can at home and stuff like that. But I think this is all good information. I do want to go deeper into it though. I want to do a part 2 and go into the complexities of this topic specifically, because I know it could go on and on and on, but I don't want to have like a 3-hour-long video. So I'll just break it up into parts. And with that being said, I want to end the video with a prayer. Dear Heavenly Father, I pray all those listening to the sound of my voice find comfort in knowing that they can have a fresh start today and that they can change their lives for the better in any way that they want to. And I also want us to learn more about ourselves and heal ourselves. And as we do that, I pray that we also learn more about each other to help heal each other so that we can become better partners to each other, better parents, better family members, just better people as a whole in our lives. And I also want us to stand more united and stand stronger. And in doing this, I also want us to understand how strong and powerful we are in our unity against the evil powers that try to break us down, dear God. I want us to be aware of our surroundings and be aware of how appreciative we should be for how far we've come in our lives, and wherever we're going into the future of our lives, I pray that we keep you first and keep our faith alive and strengthen our faith, renew our faith whenever we need to, dear God. And I just want us all to be divinely protected physically, spiritually, emotionally, mentally, every way possible. I pray that you are there with us in our lives to remind us of your glory and to remind us of how grateful we should be in this lifetime, dear God. And everyone who's having a rough day, who's having a day where they just feel hopeless or out of it, or just not sure of their purpose or whatever it may be, I pray that you be there with them now, dear God, and give them advice, give them relief, give them the strength that they need to power through the day and to realize how grateful they should be for all that they have and all that they are. So thank you, dear God, and I pray this in the name of Jesus. Amen. Okay, so thank you guys for watching or listening to this video. I really appreciate you guys, and I hope this has resonated with you in some way to help you heal along this process. So thank you guys again, and I love you so much, and we'll see you in the next video. Okay, bye.